Dude, we happened to be in the same place at the same time for a really cool event. Again, last time it was SHOT Show in January.
Yep.
Now it's Va Beach, Virginia. Chris Kuras, welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be back, man.
I'm stoked to talk to you. We have a few things to catch up on. And just going back to how we got here, I think it'd be cool to acknowledge why we're here. And part of it, I think, is very relevant to some of this conversation we're about to have in terms of what you're doing in the community. But Jeff Nichols.
Yep.
He's quite the dude. He's got quite a history. He's been on the show before. People will remember him. He's doing strength and conditioning, basically performance coaching for people that are looking to enter into the selection process for, well, basically it could be buds or it could be, Ranger school but any transition sort of into a selection process in like a government agency or military.
Yeah, he's been kind of the only one I know who has the highest success rate. I know Stu Smith also does a lot with that. He's also a retired Navy guy. But he's had a great success, and he basically houses these kids for like 6 or 8 weeks at a time and then sends them off into their selection process. And I think his success rate's almost 100% or is 100%.
It's crazy. I think the ones that aren't 100 are the ones that may get some injury or something that was maybe unpreventable, something kind of freak. I don't know the stats there, but what I can tell you is the quality and the level of the stuff that he's put for people that are listening, that he's putting out is far and away above and beyond anything you're probably seeing.
And the best part about this nice event that he's hosting is it's all facets of the holistic approach that we've been talking about. The mental side, the nutrition side, the supplement side. And it's basically encompassing this like full circle of like, here's everything you need to know how to do. And he's basically giving everybody the playbook. So it's been a lot of fun. I'm meeting a lot of great people too.
That's been the best part. I mean, again, we get to, you hit me like just a couple of days before or whatever, said, hey dude, you're going to Va Beach? It's like, yes, are you? And going back, just a quick review of your resume. You were a strength coach long before you were ever in the law enforcement world.
Yeah, that's actually why Jeff and I kind of hit it off. He hosted something like this like 4 or 5 years ago. And during our intros, I told him about my strength conditioning background and we kind of hit it off. And we keep in touch and I'll always like bounce ideas off of him. And basically I try his workout programs when I have the time to like commit the 12 weeks or whatever to it. And then he reached out and said, hey, I'm hosting this event and threw me an invite. So I said, why not?
Yeah, I'm glad you came too, because from a coach's perspective, I mean, there's a room full of people. I think there's 50 people in there or close to it. And there's a movement component in there. And there's obviously with the movement comes the coaching of the movements. And so you're able to, I think it says a lot actually about, because Jeff is he plays things pretty tight to the chest. So I think it says a lot about his trust in you to have you here to be part of that coaching staff. So there's some other great people. Yeah, great people here, man.
It's an honor and a privilege to just be able to stand in the same room with him, be able to like have his trust like that. He's obviously a very intense guy. His passion is like overflowing. Like regardless of what he did in the military, like what he's doing just as a strength coach, like he's world class, and there's no debating that. So I hope people are walking away with like knowing what type of information they're getting from him.
Yeah, and that's his mission is to just make sure that it's coming from the ground up rather than the top down, because he's recognized the challenges of trying to bring this information. I mean, he did have some time at Naval Special Warfare in the top office for human performance and conditioning for the teams, and had some success for a while, and then recognized, look, there's some limitations here, and now he's ultimately doing it on his own again. He too was a strength and conditioning coach long before, accomplished at that before he got into the military and did the time that he did. So I just shout out to Jeff and his wife Catherine,
she's been great.
Yeah, and all the other people that were there, some great people there. I bring that up, one, because I feel privileged once again that I'm sitting in front of you and we're having this conversation. We've had some time to hang out, talk shop at a lot of levels. Again, going back to the strength and conditioning side, it's good to have those conversations and get outside the typical room and into a different room and poke around and see what people are doing and how they're doing it.
Yeah.
But it's also, you mentioned this holistic approach to helping people be better. And the reason I wanted to have you back in here today and talk to you is, there's a lot of talk out there. There's always a lot of talk, and there's a lot of bitching. There's a lot of moaning. There's a lot of complaining. There's a lot of naysaying. And I think, there's a peanut gallery on the side of, we can bitch and moan and say, these guys don't get enough training here. They're not getting the right training there. And it can be, endemic of the institution that you might be in, and at some point you have to step back and go, all right, how do we make it fucking better?
Yeah.
So whether it's shooting, like, and I'm going to bring this now full, kind of push it forward into law enforcement as we get into the project that you're working on. There's a lot of people that they're constantly talking about, and it's officers included, saying, hey, we don't get enough training and it's not very good. You said on the show before, look, if you're dependent on the government to give you that training,
no,
it's not going to happen.
No.
You want to speak to that a little bit?
I mean, so nothing's ever going to change. Like, there's a saying, like, everything moves at the projects you want to care about, they're going to move at the speed of government, which means a snail's ass pace. So if you're waiting for them to do anything, it's never going to happen. But at what point are you just going to bitch, moan, and complain and not do anything about it? Like, either be part of the solution, take some ownership, do what you can, and run with it. Like, I think I made the joke in the class I taught that you were attending, like, I'm really good at being annoying. And I'm like, hey, boss, can we do this? Hey, boss, can we do this? To the point where I'm going to be told, hey, shut the fuck up. And then I'll give it a couple months to marinate. And then I'll ask them back. And then be like, hey, remember that thing I were talking about? And I'll keep getting shut down. But at least I feel better trying. Like, I care about officers way too much to just give up. And regardless of, like, the politics and the bullshit, like, there's always going to be politics. Like, we just had dinner with Troy. He's having the same issues at his agency that I have at mine.
Yeah.
Like, no police agency is immune to the political nonsense and the admin problems. Like, it's the same shit no matter where you go. Either be part of the solution or shut up. Like,
yes.
What's the point?
So that's a really good perspective from a guy on the inside, right? And there's a lot of us on the outside that want things to be better, but at the same time, we're not really doing anything except for bitching and moaning about it. So at what point does you're trying to bring awareness to the situation stop, and then now all you're doing is bitching about it start? And so I'm probably guilty of that. It's going, hey,
we all are.
We need better training. We should be doing more. And, it's up to the officers to get that training, and they need to want to get out on the weekends or, take, and they have to want to work around the problems of, the time off issues or, the shift work issues that, dude, I work this shift. Like, that's when all the classes are being held or whatever else. You have to want to do that. At the same time, like, I would, if I'm on the inside of that, I'm probably getting a little resistant to that conversation now and kind of shutting down.
Yeah.
To look, dude, I'm tired of hearing it. Like, I get it. We need to be better. I probably need to be better. But I think at some level they start pushing back.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the community I'll just speak to law enforcement specifically, they can be the worst. We're our own worst enemy with everything. My boss can walk in tomorrow and say, hey, I'm hiring Jeff Nichols to be your full-time strength and conditioning coach, and I'm going to give you time on duty to work out. You'll get 5 people to show up out of a 1,000-person agency. Like, and it's just for some reason, I'll never understand the full paradigm. You'll get the good ones who already work out.
Right.
Will take advantage.
Right.
But you'll still get the guy who's like, he'll make a complaint to the union, or he's going to bitch moan and complain that.
The guy who needs it the worst.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So there's always going to be the bad eggs, or there may not be bad dudes. They're just lazy for some reason. I work with a lot of great people that just don't like to work out.
Yeah.
Whatever. If the call comes, they'll go running. They just won't be as fast as the other guys who give a shit, I guess. But with that, the carrot's always better than the stick. My partner Jack and I went out to Arizona back in January, a weekend before SHOT Show.
Okay.
And we're talking with some cops out there. They incentivize everything. They'll pay you to go to a shooting competition and give you a free day off if you do it on your personal time.
No shit.
If you work out on duty or if you pass your quarterly PT test, you get a free day off.
Wow.
Like, all kinds of incentives. Like, those are free. Those won't really cost you anything. And your boss still has to approve the time off. So as long as it's within policy, like, you're only allowed 2 people off per day. Okay, well, pick a different day then. Like, the carrot's always going to work better. So maybe something like that is where agencies can go. But there's no reason why everybody shouldn't be fighting for all of these benefits, because health and wellness for every form of government, I don't care if you're a garbage man or a Navy SEAL, like, it's a journey that you should be on because we're all going to get broken at some point, and the goal should be to live as long as possible, especially if you're working on a government pension. Like, I want every dollar to get back. And like, yeah, I enjoy my job, but at the same time, I like getting paid, and I want to do it for a long time. I don't want to be broken.
Right.
So
it's doing it for a long time and being healthy while doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah. The circling into the training piece and giving back. So, I think there's a lot of frustration out there. We mentioned that, but there's also a lot of people that are really trying to make an effort to bridge that gap somehow.
Yeah.
So whether that's being the right resource for the departments or for the agencies that are putting maybe finance and energy into these things as an instructor, and we've had some of those people on the show, right, that dedicate a shit ton of time and effort. And yes, there's business to this too.
Sure.
But it's also work. So it's not like they're getting paid for doing nothing or working for free. They're working really hard to try to bring awareness. And then when they do get there, work through the problem and turn out a better product. And, we see those guys, the circle. I think there's a lot of people out there that think they're doing or are really trying. I think they believe that they're doing the right thing.
So, yeah, their heart's probably in the right place.
That's what I mean. Their heart is in the right place.
Yeah, but the execution sometimes can be debatable. And I've had this debate constantly, more recently than not, especially about like the fitness and like the tactical workout or tactical athlete type stuff, where I think we were talking about earlier, excuse me, like information has never been easier to get. Finding a subject matter expert should be easier now more than ever.
It's crazy, yeah.
But we're still relying on people who are like, I don't know, a CrossFit level 1 coach who takes a 2-day class, or a certified personal trainer who literally was maybe like a bartender the weekend before, and now he's doing this. But instead of paying for a Jeff Nichols program or Shelton's program,
right,
or hiring Susan Lopez to be my dietitian, like you're going to some Jenny Craig thing. Like, at what point is it going to be, I want to take some ownership and actually research something before just spending money or half-assing it? It's extremely frustrating. So my goal, at least with my Instagram lately, is like a lot of people have been going me in the DMs like, here, I'm going to refer to you to whoever I think the subject matter expert is. And I don't make a dime off of referrals. I don't give a shit. I just want you guys to have the right information.
Yeah.
Because although I love the strength and conditioning community, it was a big part of my life and it helped me to get to where I am. I've forgotten more than I know.
Sure.
Like, I know a lot of movements. I still focus and I'm obsessive about it. I don't read research studies anymore. Like, I'm not reading up on like the latest, greatest supplements. I trust Jeff for that because I don't have the time.
He's staying relevant.
Yeah. He lives and breathes this stuff. So I will call or text Jeff and be, hey, well, what do you think about this?
Right.
Like, the next stuff he was doing today, like, that stuff is fantastic because I've been trying to crack that egg for a while now. And he's figured it out. He's dissected it down to like every single muscle in the neck and the body and the back. So that's what I'm going to do. And that's what I encourage people to do instead of, again, finding a half-assed source of information. I'd rather you go to the leader of the industry, because I can't think of 2 worse industries that are as bad as the tactical, like, training community, and then you want to combine it with the fitness industry, which is even full of more bullshit.
It's a shit show.
As we learned with talking to the Thorne about like how shitty all these supplements are, and people are just like filling their bodies with garbage, and I'm definitely guilty of it too.
Yep.
But my God, like, it's such a poorly guided like world. Both of them combined together is just even worse.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's tough to look at or watch or get involved in. But staying the course, I don't want to be the guy that's just bitching and moaning.
Correct.
And I don't want to be, if I had the information, going back to who you're referring out to, I don't want to hold that information to myself. Like, I want to share it. And that's what kind of my whole journey is like, there's some really fucking smart people out there, and they're way smarter than I am in a lot of stuff. So that's who I want to talk to, and I want other people to hear that so that they get the right information. And I think it's really easy to get into that bubble, or that we've talked about it as an echo chamber, but in a bubble of who you're getting your information from. And it might not be terrible information, but it's not the best. And if you're, I don't know, if your health's at risk or your life's at risk, or those things, or either of those things are important to you, like your safety, your security, your health, which I think should be priorities, because if you can't take care of those for yourself, how the hell are you going to help anybody else, your family, your buddies, your department teammates, any of that stuff, whatever it happens to be, how are you going to do it? You should be seeking the best information and not resting or being satisfied with these tidbits or these crumbs. And it also ultimately means, like, if you're really serious about that, you're going to have to make an investment.
Yes.
And I think that's a whole other topic.
Yeah. And again, we've talked about it off camera before, so I'll touch on it again. Like, as a coach, if you're not qualified to be doing it, that's okay. If you're learning, like, if the only thing you can coach somebody to do is like go for a 20-minute walk and teach them how to do like a body weight squat, then just do that. Teaching them to do crazy shit like doing box jumps in kit, and it's like their first workout, or doing all kinds of weird stuff, like just because they're a tactical athlete or want to be a tactical athlete, doesn't mean you have to throw all this fancy shit on them and have them jump around and make it like a freaking, like a movie set type of workout. Because here's my biggest fear with that stuff is, if you get a young guy, he graduated the academy 5 years ago, let himself go a little bit, had a kid, worked midnight shift, gained like 30 pounds, and he wants to get back in shape. Never was really an athlete. And this is a big what-if scenario, but say he hires this half-ass coach who puts him through this crazy, like, advanced workout that's super cool looking, but he gets fucked up in the process on day one. You may never get him back. If you fuck up his back, a knee or something like that, and you put him on light duty where he can't work overtime or details as a cop, or he can't, like, be as physically fit as he once was, he's got to have a surgery or go to physical therapy or something now, he may never have that drive to end up losing the weight, to be an athlete, because he had such a bad experience. We talked about trauma today with Rebecca. Like, that might classify to him as a traumatic experience that he never wants to revisit.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you've lost that person for the rest of their career.
Yeah, you ruined it.
Yeah.
And you ruined the process for that person too. I think there's actually a flip side to that too, and that is, going back to the same example, a person's young, they could get into maybe a program that isn't that great.
Yeah.
And have some success from it. Success being measured as, I lost weight, I got a little stronger, I built a little endurance. But I didn't fucking learn anything. And I didn't know why I was doing it. Like, what? It's burning calories. Yeah. It's pushing loads around, right?
That hit the nail on the head.
It's doing fancy shit, or whatever. And as a result, because I've never done that before, I haven't really done much outside of maybe what I got, my basic training in the academy or whatever, a little bit of conditioning I did going into that. Yeah. Another probably topic for another time, based on our other conversation today. But yeah, they have some success and they think that's the answer, and their belief systems are all set around that. And then as they get a little older, or that's not working for them anymore, or life changes, priorities change, whatever, they have a little injury or they fall off the wagon or whatever else, they keep reaching back to this. And what they're reaching back to is a template. Yeah. And they don't have any foundation. Yeah. Like, why am I doing this?
It's like going back to like a muscle and fitness magazine that you found under your bed from 20 years ago and thinking the workouts they may still be good, but I mean, I know we've definitely talked about this before, where a good coach should be basically planning to put himself out of a job. If I'm coaching you to do strength and conditioning, at some point, I don't want you to need me anymore. If I'm doing a good job, at some point in the future, I'm obsolete to you. Yeah, obviously, I want to continue to be better at my craft and keep learning and evolving and educating you. But at some point, you're going to know the fundamentals. You're going to know the basics. Same thing with shooting. Like, yeah, I teach range classes. I can teach you fundamental pistol a dozen times because I'm also a student. I'm going to keep evolving. But at some point, you're going to be your own little grasshopper that goes off and does your own thing. And that's awesome. That's okay. That means you've evolved past the point that I can probably teach you. Because I don't see myself being like world champion one day. Go train with JJ Racaza or Ben Stoker. Like,
yeah, if you want to be world champion, go train with those guys.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you can outgrow a coach, and that's fine. It's okay. The coach should also, again, be striving to be the best constantly. But some coaches want to keep their talents in the because it's a paycheck.
Yeah, that to me, that's what you. I mean, there's an abundance mindset, and then there's that. Yeah. Right. And it's a constant fighting with yourself. And I think there's a lot of things that go into that, going back to Rebecca's talk today, about, and just how we think about ourselves, and then going deeper into the other talk when we went into, with Catherine was getting into meditation and handling your business and clearing up your own house inside your head. Yeah. and what you think you're worth and what you're really providing and what the truth is in that.
Yeah.
And the overinflated self-ego and sense of self-confidence, I think can get in the way quite frequently. But the biggest gift you can give somebody is empowering them with the ability to do it on their own. I mean, so the challenge becomes like, if I don't have a good, and this is to your example, your avatar guy there, who's trying to latch onto something because he's desperate, or he just doesn't know any better, or he's really not going at it from an informed approach at all. He's just looking for the easy answer, the cheap answer, the one weekend thing, certification or whatever else. That leads to a bigger path of, well, this is how things should be.
Yeah.
I should be able to just, do this really simply, do this very easily. It should come to me. It should be very available. And it takes the critical thinking process out of it.
Yeah.
And then that starts to get into the culture.
Yeah.
This is how things should work, and things should be handed to me. And why can't you do this? This should be so easy. But it isn't. That's the reality.
Well, our society wants the immediate gratification.
Right.
Like, I want to be able to open my phone and my answer is right there, type of thing.
I'll just Google it.
Yeah, nothing about the fitness industry, the fitness lifestyle, I should say, is easy. Like, even you can take all the steroids in the world. If you don't work hard, you're not going to become like Mr. Olympia. You're not going to become a world record holder. Like, it doesn't matter. You can't cheat the game. Like, the weight is the weight, and it's going to be the most honest thing. Same thing with shooting. The target and the bullet doesn't lie to you. You either have it or you don't. You're going to put the time in or you're not. Like, there's no half-assing it. And if you do, your results are going to show it.
That is the other interesting thing. Like, that's the compare and contrast when we were talking about fitness and firearms training being just a shit show. It's also, those are two things. Being great at both are not things you can buy.
Nope.
No amount of money.
Nope.
You can't buy any of that. However, getting instruction to become good at them does cost money, because there are people out there that have spent a lot of their own money and time and energy and blood, sweat, and tears, and they've suffered in order to get this knowledge to pass it on. Maybe they're not your cup of tea, that's fine, but there are other people out there that have, and they will charge for the value that they're being able to provide. And I've had so many of those guys on the show, and people on the show are like, look, I'm just trying to cut all the fat that I had to get through and try to give these guys the meat and potatoes, so that we can speed up. Kyle DeFore was talking about this. Just, my job should be to speed up the learning process, like, because I should know at this point how to do that. And if I don't know how to do that, that's very telling.
Yeah. Your instructor should have basically made all those mistakes before, filtered all that bullshit out for you, and give their best version of the answer that they can provide.
Yeah, I think the big challenge right now is I think we're at this like precipice, or like, maybe that's just a corny word for this, but like, we're at this verge of the consumer starting to understand that better. It takes time, and I think I say this all the time, but I think the firearms industry is a little bit behind where the fitness industry was with this, where the consumer is a little bit more savvy now. Yeah. They can look at shit and go, I think you still have the fools and the foolish,
sure,
or whatever. But
the fanboys are going to be loyal no matter what you tell them
all the time, right? But they're starting to get to this point where they're like, that doesn't feel right to me. Dude with shirt off, right? Who's beat red, right? And all of the things, right? Giving me fitness advice. Something's not right. That's a red flag right there, right? So then there's the intent and the content and all the things that are being put out. And I think people are starting to learn that. The firearms industry, I think, is a little bit behind. However, I think it's catching up.
Yeah.
And I see one of the bigger consumers of this, media or this advertising or marketing being law enforcement, because they're being forced to look at themselves in a little bit differently now. And not necessarily from like the department view, but from the public's view.
Oh, yeah.
Because body cam footage is everywhere now. And let's be honest, a lot of the body cam footage we end up seeing, like in the civilian side, is not generally very good. Occasionally you get the stud who...
You get Nashville.
Yeah. Seemingly did everything right. Yeah. And had a little bit of luck. Yeah. Or whatever, but seemingly did everything right. And then there's obviously the Monday morning quarterbacking of all this and all this stuff. But they're being forced to look at it like, oh, that shit didn't look good. Yeah. And I don't know what I would have done in that situation, or like, I'm not sure I would have been capable. What would I have done? So I think it's forcing the shopping of who is the right instructor and who has the right information.
Yeah.
Which has got its goods and its bads, because sometimes mistakes can be made in terms of choosing an instructor based on what they see on Instagram or in this advertising or marketing.
Yeah, and marketing has always been interesting because it's a little bit of like social psychology, and that's a lot of it is social psychology. It's all just like, which buttons can I push based on this picture I'm posting or this video clip I'm posting. But I know we've definitely talked about it, and I made a meme about it. Like, the greatest trick that society has ever been fooled on is that every single police officer is very highly capable to do their job when it comes to fighting, tactics, and shooting.
Yeah.
You may get, again, that 5-ish%, and it's probably more generous than not. Maybe 10. I'll be even more generous. But not everybody is as capable as you think they are just because they wear a badge. And a lot of people rely on that nice uniform to protect them because they're the police. Like, no, there's people who will fuck you up just because you are a cop. And the body camera footage is now showing that more and more, that people don't give a fuck.
They're brazen,
They
man.
don't give a fuck that you're a cop. They will punch you square in the face. And that's fine, but you better know how to react when that day comes. And if you're not training in the areas of, again, combatives especially, that should be number one. Number two should definitely be shooting, and then tactics equal there and tied to number two. But I'm glad the body camera thing is happening. Okay, we talked about it on the last one about how it saved my job or saved me from a bunch of heartache. But all these videos are giving us data. We're learning. This is hopefully, it has been helping us evolve. I hope it helps us to continue to evolve in the right ways. Like, if you fuck up Monday morning quarterback, hopefully it doesn't cost you your life. You learn something. You either did an awesome job like Nashville, or we all are going to learn something nationwide. And hopefully you don't end up in like a bad situation because of it. But we have to evolve. And if that means body cameras are going to make you look stupid on the internet, so be it. Hopefully I don't end up that. I can make one dumb mistake tomorrow when I go back to work. And guess what? I'm the laughing stock of the internet. You know what? At the end of the day, hopefully y'all learn from my fuck up.
That's the reality of the situation, though, right? I mean, that's the reality of what you face every day, regardless of body cams. Yeah. Right?
Society's standard's always going to be up here, whether I got a body camera on me or fucking not. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, court of public opinion is rough.
Yeah. Right? They don't care. They don't care.
Very forgiving.
Yeah, they don't care if you're a SWAT guy. They don't care if you're a fucking retired Navy SEAL. They don't give a fuck. They expect you to be up here. And you could be fucking Barney Fife, but guess what? They expect you to be up here. So why not be working towards being there? Like, try to be the person that if your mom was like being threatened in a building and an active shooter, which cop do I want to show up?
Yep.
Do I want Deputy Doofy or Barney Fife, or do I want the bad motherfucker who actually goes to classes and trains all the time?
Yeah, I think that's the next part of this conversation is like, if you are, I'll just be really frank and honest about this. If you are Barney Fife, if you're that guy, this fucking conversation we're about to have, not for you.
Yeah,
it's not for you. Not. It's not for you.
If you haven't seen the light by now, listening to us talk about it ain't gonna do shit.
Continue to be Barney Fife, right? Good luck to you. Good luck to your communities and the people around you, and best wishes. I mean that. It's not like fuck off.
Yeah.
It's just this conversation isn't for you. So for the audience out there that does give a shit and knows there's a gap between them being Barney Fife and potential Barney Fife and a potential badass, and is trying to close that gap at any level, you're doing some cool shit right now. There's other guys like you that are out there doing that, but I want to talk about what you're doing specifically from a business perspective.
Okay.
To close that gap for people through your experience, but also through, the connections that you have and all the things that you're doing right now to help cops be the ones that want to be better, and hopefully get around some of the red tape that exists that some of it legitimately could be preventing them from getting better.
Yeah.
Some of it they could be creating for themselves.
True.
Or maybe they just don't know how to advocate for themselves the right way. And I think what you're doing is you're putting together some stuff that can help them be better at that and know how to do that. And then when they get in a situation, they're coming away with good quality information versus making, as it's been said on the show before, like a $600 mistake.
Yeah.
Or even a department making that kind of a mistake.
True.
Which is a bigger problem. But that said, let's talk about Ape and let's talk about the Plate to Plate project.
So we'll start with Ape. So, Ape Defense was started by a good friend of mine, Chris. He started basically an online version of like Brownells, like selling parts, guns, stuff like that. And then did really freaking well his first year working out of his living room. The guy is a manic hustler. Probably one of the hardest working guys I know. He wanted to expand, so he created a training division of his company and asked me to partner with him. So mostly just range stuff. Product development, we're going to bring some products to market. I got some pouches idea. I got a breaching tool I'm working on, stuff like that. And make just good, affordable classes for law enforcement. Everything from short, like half-day skills drills, like, hey, you can't get a whole weekend. That's cool. Like, we'll make an affordable price, and it's a half a day, and hopefully your bosses will give you the blessing and you can go. Nothing's going to be like crazy price. We already got some stuff working in California.
Right.
Texas is on the table.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. October, hopefully this year. They say it's a good time of year. Hopefully, don't get rained out.
Nah, you'll be fine.
Oh, no, wildfires.
Wildfires is what you get in October.
That's what I'm worried about.
The rain happens a little later.
That's why I didn't become a fireman. I don't like that shit. So, yeah, making a bunch of products, hopefully teaching a bunch of classes. Really excited to be working with Chris. He's just a really good dude. He's a good shooter, too. The other project is potentially going to be really huge if everything goes according to plan, is it's the plate-to-plate project. And if you trained CQB with us, you know what being plate-to-plate with is. We came up with this idea after we basically taught a class, and it was an intro class. So it was a half-day class. We left, went to have some beers and lunch, and they're like, how do we fix this? And this being law enforcement not getting enough training. I think it was after one of the active shooter incidents, and it didn't go well for law enforcement. It might have been after Uvalde. Like, what's the issue? Like, how do we fix this? Or how does it get fixed? And all right, let's be part of the solution. So plate-to-plate project is our way to have law enforcement's back. We will do whatever we can to either provide training or equipment to you. That being said, right now our website, I think, is just launched, or I'm not sure if the designer just finished it or not. Is going to work this way. We will raise as much money as physically possible and say Scott is a law enforcement officer, and he's got 20 friends, and they want to host John Dufresne, or they want to host whoever your favorite instructor is, Joe Dawson for a sniper class. And you got 20 friends. If you can guarantee their attendance, we will pay Joe whatever his rate is, and we will send all of you to go train for free on the organization's dime. All from 501c3 raised funds. So no more excuses. But here's the thing that, again, that I mentioned the part of guaranteed attendance.
Yep. So how do you do that? Because people are going, that's a very idealistic, Chris. Great idea, but...
We've offered free classes to cops before, like, hey, like, we got an extra spot, or somebody bailed last minute and they offered to sponsor somebody and then they still no-show. Like, cops are their own worst enemy. We already talked about that. So here, we're going to figure out the policy, but if you basically no-call, no-show, and you took a spot away from another cop that wanted it, you're either getting a ban of some kind. I don't know if it'd be like lifetime, but you're basically going to go into the blacklist file of you're not welcome to anything for either several years or for lifetime, because that's just, one, is fucking disrespectful. Like, that's... training with Joe Duffy, whatever, that's $500-$600 for a weekend class. Like, that you just pissed it away. You just pissed it away. Yeah. So that being said, we'll figure all the logistics out, but it's also going to come to equipment, and also it doesn't have to be an entire class. So say you want to take a class, but say a Kyle DeFore class, like, they sell out fast. Kyle sells out all of his classes in minutes.
Yeah. It's seconds in some cases, so like 30 seconds.
Yeah, so if you email me and say, hey, I want to take Kyle DeFore class, by the time I open my email 20 minutes later, that spot's gone.
It's gone.
So we're going to look at a reimbursement program of some kind. So if you can get in that class really quick, you got to pay the money up front. If you submit the paperwork and we have the funding and we get to it in the queue, like, okay, well, after you graduate the class, send us a certificate that you were there, okay, and we'll send the money back to you and we'll refund you. The next portion will be, we're setting up like an online file on the website where, hey, my agency doesn't have any ballistic shields. Okay, how many do you need? Okay, do you have any preference on brand? No? Okay, then we'll find you whatever we think is best, and guess what? We just paid for 5 or 10 shields or whatever your agency needs. We need lasers for night vision, like, depending on how much we go, maybe we'll buy you a Bearcat. I don't know. Whatever will make cops better at their job, to be equipment that will enhance their capabilities, or training that will make them better at their job, we want to make it streamlined, foolproof, like no more excuses. Like if you have an excuse, that's your fault. That's on you. We are going to cut through all the bullshit for you and do as much as we can to provide to you. Again, there's a million cops in this country. Hopefully we can help as many as possible, and hopefully other people see this and want to do the same. I know there's a lot of great organizations out there that are helping the like mental health aspect of it, but I don't know many organizations that are just dedicated to providing good cops that are working currently right now, because they're never going to get enough training.
Yeah, there's a few things I think to bring to the table here for people that aren't familiar with what's going on the inside. But I have a couple questions first, actually.
Sure.
In this thing, would there be like a list of approved instructors? Like, are you guys vetting that? Because I assume there has to be some type of check and balance here, right? So how is that going to work?
Luckily, we network a lot.
Yeah, you guys know everybody, so that's...
We try to know as many good instructors as possible, like we talked about our circles and everything. If it's like one guy trying to go to one class and we don't know them, but they have a decent reputation, or that we haven't heard anything bad, okay, we may take the risk on that. Mm-hmm. We may ask you for feedback. But as far as like sponsoring an entire class, we're sticking with the best of the best. Like I love that. I'm calling JJ Ricazza to teach you like performance pistol instead of like some random dude that I've never heard of. Sorry. Like I'm going with somebody I trust, because one, JJ is a freaking awesome guy and he is a world champion. Like why not go to, if he's telling me how to shoot better, I'm going to listen. It's like Tom Brady's going to throw me a pass, I'm going to try and pay attention to how he's throwing it.
Right.
So...
yeah, I think, so there's a couple people might be listening out there. I always try and be objective with this and go, oh, I see. So this is going to be like a boys club. Like if you're not part of the club, then you can't be, I'm not going to be approved. And this is, so I could kind of relate this to fitness, and there's no governing body here. So you guys are just doing whatever you want. Well, first off, sure nonprofit, you can do whatever the fuck you want, right? So that's the first question, or the first answer I would give to that. But the second part of that is kind of what you were saying in terms of the networking. So you just all left the door open for, there may be guys we don't know.
Yeah.
This gives you an opportunity to know them.
Oh, yeah.
And if I'm a good instructor and I think I'm worth my weight, and I want to be part of this program to give back, not just from a business perspective or whatever else, then that puts the onus on me, the responsibility on me to reach out.
Yeah.
So, and here's the thing that I could tell people, and this is, I'm biased, but everybody is at some level. Like the more I get to know the guys that you and the Condition 1 group guys hang out with, and, this tree and the roots of this tree, they don't connect to anybody that's an asshole.
No.
And they don't.
We try not to.
They don't connect to any shit instructors.
Yeah.
And they connect what they end up connecting to is a lot of people that do a really good job in in certain areas. So some are, because you've reached out to them to get training from them on certain areas. So like if you want to do CQB, then you go to Condition 1, right? If you want to, I don't know, do fucking night vision with Duffy because he's a fucking nerd on that, then you go do that. And all that kind of stuff. So I think, if you're saying that already, that goes back to what I was saying before.
Yeah.
I think this is a lot about you and way less about, this particular organization as you guys are putting it together. If you have that lack of confidence, you're already with that stinking thinking, you're probably part of the problem.
Probably.
You're probably part of the problem.
Yeah, and... yeah, even if they want to think it's a boys club, that's fine. But we're pretty proud of our circle. Like, if I called Duffy and was like, "Hey, have you heard of this guy?" If he hasn't, somebody in our circle knows somebody in the industry who probably does, or they can start making phone calls. Like, the world ain't that big. It really isn't.
No, it's not.
You can think it's as big as you want, but somebody knows somebody always. Like, you can't get away with shit. If you do something stupid, like, we know about it. Like, well, actually, it was like 3 or 4 weeks ago. I'm sorry, longer than that. When we were in Texas, Dave and a couple of the guys were teaching night vision class in Texas, and just teaching a bunch of SWAT guys there. They gave feedback on a very popular instructor's class that they walked out on because it was so unsafe. And I was like, really? And these are high-end dudes that started a training company. And I'm like, that's interesting. I'm not going to mention it here because it's not my fucking place, and it's all second, third-hand information. but somebody knows something. You can't hide. If you teach a bad class, yes, it's all subjective. It's opinion-based, but there's going to be a consistent, like, path that follows you. Like, one or two people talking shit ain't a big deal. But if you have, like, dozens of people that are like, I don't know, okay, sorry, we're not going to sponsor you.
So part of my journey, like my pathway to get out there I didn't know the answers to those questions, like what you just said. Like, does everybody know one another? Or is this thing literally the fucking wild, wild west? And that mean like firearms culture, firearms training, specifically. And the answer is yes and no, and that's what I'm finding out. The yes is it's so brand new. The barrier of entry is so low, and there's so much opportunity out there. I mean, we've got more gun owners in America than we've ever had, more guns than we've ever had. Like, there's money to be made there, and teaching people how to use those, right? There's also like the age of the internet and Instagram, whatever, which makes this much easier to get the word out and whatever else. But what it also does is it also connects people in a way. The good ones in a way, and those that really do care, and those that are trying to police it in a much different way than they ever had the opportunity to do. And that word travels fast. So if you're a dick, or if you're unsafe as an instructor, or you're ripping somebody else's information, and I know that's one of the things I found out right away was instructors were really having a tough time. They were trying to keep their stuff close to their chest, because they were. All of a sudden, they'd see somebody else using their material, like verbatim. Like, not that anything is, like, shooting is not proprietary to anybody.
No.
But if you're, like, literally copying somebody's stuff verbatim, and you don't have a full understanding of what you're saying, it shows up.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's what I'm saying. So, like, I wasn't sure. I was like, hey, man, this thing looks fucking wild. Like, anybody can come out with guns and say they're an instructor, and as long as they're a better shooter than the student, like, who's to say any different? The thing that's happening is that is happening. It's showing up.
But here's what we talked about California and the gun community out there that I'm learning more about is the deeper you get into this industry and this community, the tactical training is like, there's students that will work the fucking gun way harder than most instructors.
Yeah.
Like, you'll end up being like, well, God damn, like, because I've seen them do it. Like, I've been to classes where the students are giving the instructor the run for their money. That's good.
That's great.
A good instructor should be motivated by that.
100%.
But you definitely see, back to your point, like, of ripping stuff off, when you train with enough people, like, because, again, I take as many classes as I possibly can afford to take, and I see somebody teaching something I've seen from somewhere else, and I know where the source came from, like, and they don't give credit, like, that hurts your credibility to me. I'm like, hey, like, you at least throw them a bone, like, hey, heard this from here, heard this from that person, like, and it's not a big deal to, like, most guys don't give a shit.
The best ones are going to give credit.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like, they don't care if you borrow their information, just give them credit.
Yeah. It's what do they say? The best form of flattery is imitation, or imitation is the best form of flattery. Sure. As long as you're not plagiarizing it, right? Yeah. And you're giving credit where credit's due. Yes, we've had that conversation. I've had that conversation with several other people, and you may not think it's a big deal, or you may not even know, which is a bigger problem.
Yeah, most students aren't going to know.
They're not going to know, and I think there's some instructors out there that don't actually know because they heard it from somebody else who heard it from somebody else who heard it from that game of telephone,
which is even scarier because it's third, fourth hand context information that you aren't privy to. And you're trying to make it up on your own. Some can maybe fill in those gaps. Most probably
can't. It's diluted, though. It's diluted. And it creates, like, I think I was watching, I was watching a live with Matt and Mike and Chris, Pannone and Pranka and Palmer the other day. And they were talking about this term, OODA loop. And I'm bringing this up because of how that's been taken out of context, and people are trying to use it in so many different applications now, and where it came from was jet fighter pilots and whatever else. And it, my comment to Matt during the time was like, hey man, I think this brings on a whole other level of conversation, or a whole different conversation about the discourse that gets used, within the industry, and paralleling it to the fitness industry. Like, there's a lot of, I would call it like slang exercise terminology, right?
Yeah.
Because people don't understand what the actual movement is. They don't understand, planes and ranges of motions, biomechanics and things like that. And so what ends up happening is like, that's too complicated, so we're just going to call it this. Is it too complicated, or you just don't understand what the fuck you're talking about?
There you go.
And so then it turns into, well, it's a squat. Yeah, okay, what type of squat are we talking about, and who's doing it, and how does that look while they're doing it, and what modality are we using around that, and all those kind of things. The same, I think, transitions over to firearms without boring people. My point is like the shit shows up, and with regard to how people are talking about it, what they're using, and that becomes, this is circling back to like what people might not know about on the inside is, some people do, and they probably understand this, but there's the old, we've always done it this way, so we're going to continue to do it this way. And so that discourse is very old. It's very dated and antiquated at a lot of levels.
It's lazy.
And when you hear new stuff, it's scary. It's like, well, that doesn't really fit, or it even contradicts what the other stuff was.
So law enforcement specifically, even referencing the OODA loop and everything, like, it's easy to just keep referring back to that instead of diving deeper into something
what does that mean?
new. Yeah. Like, no, we just keep talking about that because we're lazy as fuck and we don't want to dive deeper into something and create something new. And because also law enforcement, nobody wants to be that first motherfucker.
That's my point.
Because it's easy once somebody else has already done. They're doing. We can just copy their shit because we're not the first ones, and we can blame it on them if shit goes bad.
Nobody wants to be the yes man.
The liability always wants to be transferred, and that's usually through leadership of any agency. They want to be able to pass that bill on somebody else, but you want to hope that guys will dive in a little bit, at least on the personal side, not law enforcement, but the guys who are paying on their own to go to training and stuff, invest just a little bit of time into researching who you're dealing with. And read comments. Like, if you see guys reposting a video of guys doing Mickey Mouse shit on the range, and you dive into the comments, and 90% of them are all making fun of this motherfucker, that's not a class I'm going to sign up for.
Yeah.
If it's a bunch of good dudes who are giving them a thumbs up, or you go online, everybody's got Google reviews now, for God's sake, on instructors. You can find information. I would be, if I'm new to this, I'm DMing people who are liking it or who follow them. Hey, have you trained with them? Hey, anybody trained with this guy before? Give me feedback. They're strangers. What the fuck are they going to say? No.
Right.
Okay, then you still don't have any information. I'll be that nosy guy on the internet. Use the internet for what it's capable of. Why not?
There's plenty of people that will respond to you too.
Of course.
I had one of my cousins who's sort of fresh and new to the space. He's he's trying to do the right thing, be a responsible gun owner, take lessons, get his shit together for all the reasons that a lot of citizens do. And he reached out to me and was like, dude, I just DM'd this guy. And he's a fairly big name in the industry. I'm not going to drop his name because it's his third party information. But he's like, he hit me back. He answered the question. I go, bro, the good ones do, man.
Yeah.
The good ones are going to do that. It might take them a while, but if you ask them a legit question and you put the time into formulating the question, they'll 99% of the time, they're going to take the time to formulate one back to you, as long as you're not being disrespectful and asking them some uninformed, more like a non-well-developed question. They're going to hit you back. He was shocked by that.
Yeah.
And so that, to your point, people are going to figure that out. And so there's this concept of, okay, well, just bringing up what I said before about, actually this is a boys club. And there's this term gatekeeping, and there's good gatekeeping, and then there's bad gatekeeping, right? Somebody needs to start good gatekeeping some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And so if you're, going to, this nonprofit, right, who's trying to get you training, they should have some say if they're going to pay for it.
Yeah.
What they're going to pay for, what they're not going to pay for. And it makes sense that they would also try to be good gatekeepers. So here's the thing. It's but they're just going to give it to their boys. But if the people behind it really care about their reputation, which they do, and they have a good one to begin with, I don't think that's something you need to worry about. You're making an issue out of something that isn't there. And again, I think this comes back to, well, I don't want to be kept out of that club. Well, then fucking do better.
Yeah.
Then be remarkable.
Yeah.
Right?
Do some shit.
Do some shit. Don't steal other people's information.
Yeah.
Make this a business, not a fucking hobby.
Yeah.
Don't say things that you don't know about.
Yeah.
And you know, the stay in your lane thing, I think is relevant, but at the same time, it's like, understand what your lane is for now. And to your point, like if you're learning and you're growing and you're unsure, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like to say that I'm still learning and I'm still growing and I'm figuring out where I fit in this space. That doesn't mean because you're learning and growing, you're not going to support, you know, them in their learning and growth process. So I may be speaking out of turn, but I just don't get that in this situation.
Neither do I. And even if somebody does suggest somebody who's not in our circle or not in our network, or whatever, like we may even not even give you the opportunity to request, like, say a specific, like, for example, the form that you fill out online might be like, all right, we want night vision training. Okay, here's the list of vetted instructors, and we'll leave a space open. Who would you like?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's smart.
If they're in your area and they have the availability, because guess what? So night vision, okay, there's Duffy, Sam Houston, Jamie Caldwell. There's a list, okay? Anybody can, like us, we teach night vision, CQB. Like, okay, if our availability is none and the person you suggest is available, okay, guess what? We'll give it a try. Why the fuck not? Because guess what? Duffy, like, for example, his schedule is already like half booked for 2024.
He's booked out to next year.
He's an animal. He's killing it. And I'm so happy for him. But guess what? The guy's busy. You're not always going to get John Dufresne. You might have to settle for somebody else. Like, I mean, Duffy will definitely try to make it work because he's a good dude, but still.
I just want to make a note. Like, those other names that you just listed there are not shabby, you know, alternatives.
I would hope nobody would think that. Like,
but here's another point to this, and that is connecting people, and that's what you guys have been really good at doing, and that's what that circle does. They're not afraid to connect people with other good people. And so you might be an officer at a department somewhere in some little town in the upper northern Midwest or something, and there may not be a lot available to you, or that's specific. I mean, you mentioned the night vision thing. Maybe there's nobody up there that's really doing that, that's really on the map yet or not known, and you just need help finding somebody to get to. You're that officer. I can only take one day off, right? I really want this rifle training or this pistol training or night vision training or whatever else, something different. I don't know, but I know I need this. Can you guys help me find this? We talked a little bit about that, about matching people up and going, we might not know anybody, but we'll find somebody for you. We'll do the best we can.
And my hope is to also build more of the community up through the networking in these classes. This class, for example, like we've met all these young guys and some not so young guys that are all trying to better their communities, whether it's the pipeline they're trying to get into or that they're already in. Like, it doesn't matter if it's shooting or strength conditioning. Like, you don't go to events like this and find bad dudes. You may, like, one of them might be an arrogant little shit or something like that, but I'm going to venture to say 95% of everybody that goes to something like this is a good dude. And now when you meet them, you get to talk to them, like you're building that network. They walk up like, hey, what's your Instagram? Okay, we talk a little bit. And then guess what? A month from now, we start bullshitting. Or how many friends have I made at taking training classes? Like the guys out in Arizona, I still talk to them all the time. Like, it's just fun. It's good to be around good dudes and have like common interests and like the same shit. And we can also challenge each other and have adult conversations, and we don't have to agree on everything, but we can still be adults about it. Like, this community can thrive and evolve so hard if we can gatekeep each other or just keep ourselves honest with peer reviews. Be like, hey, that thing you posted about like that style of shooting, I don't agree with it. Tell me more about it. Let's have a discussion. You might change my mind, or maybe you'll change your mind back to what it was. Like, I don't know. Let's just talk. The open dialogue is just slowly, it's not evolving as fast as I hope it would.
Yeah, it's interesting with all the ways that we could do this.
Yeah.
Like now, it isn't, it gets diluted and gets boiled down and it gets lost in the tone gets lost in in a text or.
Yeah, you'll be labeled toxic or a hater just because your opinion is different. Like, I don't care. Like, let's have an adult conversation every now and then. Like, it's okay to disagree. Like,
there's the ego and the feelings and the difference between the two. We were talking about that yesterday, but like in today's example of what we're doing this weekend, like there's these guys there that have committed themselves to this process. And I was having a conversation with one of them this morning. He's 20 years old. Yeah,
there's some kids in this class. Like, I'm talking kids.
I asked him. He came up to me and introduced himself to me. Gave me a nice firm handshake, looked me in the eye, which right off the bat, it's like,
that's a winner.
Yeah, you get a couple of checks in the win column for me. And, I went through this conversation with him and where he came from, who he is, how he got there. And at the end of the day, like, he was talking about how important the community is and how important that tribe is. And then he had another buddy who's now in the process, who's going through that went through a former class with Jeff and Catherine in the group, and how successful he's being or whatever. And that all of them still talk, right? And they still talk. Now, this is a 20-year-old kid, right? Who's, hasn't had a lot of life experience yet, who's already getting that because Jeff and Catherine were gatekeeping their program.
Yep.
No pieces of shit get into that program. That's why you're not going to find any in that room.
Oh, God. Jeff and Catherine would kick somebody out so fast with a bad attitude.
Yeah, 1,000%. And they're screening the shit out of them. Yeah. And by the way, you know what you're getting when you show up to that.
Yeah.
If you're on the other end. I mean, I don't know too many people on the planet that are as intense as Jeff. So, and we keep bringing him up. If you don't know who he is, go check out.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. Go check out Jeff Nichols. But the point of this is they're gatekeeping it to keep it pure, to keep the integrity that exists there. And with that integrity, then comes continuity. And I think a lot of people would look at that, and this was my point before, as, well, you guys just want to be in control of everything, and empower everything, and be the kings and wave your wand. No, I think the way I look at it is no, we just want to maintain continuity and integrity. I don't need to control anything if those things exist. The tribe will police and take care of itself. Yeah. And right now we have like so many tribes, that are out there, and people have these, they're deeply, deeply like emotionally attached to these tribes. Anything that comes in and questions what they're doing or how they're doing it gets them all twisted and turned their panties in a wad. And but they're not gatekeeping well.
Well, I see Jeff as like a mentor, not as just as a coach, but as a human being. Like he's a good human being, like second to none. And like day one, he went on a little bit of a rant and in the debrief, he wanted to make sure that he didn't come across the wrong way. His passion and his drive and the reason he's doing this comes from out of love. Like he loves the community he came from. He knows the mistakes he made in his life and through his process, and he is trying to mentor as many young kids as he can to be the best versions of themselves, to contribute back to that community that made him what he is.
Who he is, yeah.
Like, that's all out of love. And all of us should be striving to do that. Like, I want cops to be the greatest fucking human beings possible, and the best tacticians and the best fighters and the best shooters and the best problem solvers they can possibly be. Because that's the community that I get to be a part of, and I'm proud of it. Like, I'm not a big thin blue line, like, Punisher skull type of dude. Like, I could care less about all that bullshit. I care about the families that are going to be impacted by these officers. Like, if my mom or my cousin or somebody I care about has to call the police,
that's who you want showing up?
I want the good ones to show up. And it's not always going to be that way, but if I can do anything to help those officers do better and be the good ones, that's my entire motivation. Like, I love the hardworking cop. They deserve the best. Their cities, their agencies, the government is not going to always give them what they need. I want to fill that gap the best way we can.
Okay, there's a lot to that, man.
Yeah.
What you're just saying.
It's a rabbit hole.
That's putting it out there.
Yeah.
And I think there are lots of people out there. There's some really great ones that are putting it out there, and they are coming from a good place. Like you said. However, I think sometimes the energy is a little bit misdirected, and it can come off depending on who's receiving it and where they are at that particular time of day, or where they are at that particular time in their life or their journey or whatever else might receive it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, it's the intent.
Yes.
Right? It's the intent of what you're trying to put together, and whether it's in the post that you put out or a class that you're teaching or a conversation that you're having. And as people are kind of coming into this, I'm going to go back to the gatekeeping. Like, there's good in gatekeeping.
Yeah.
You can be a good gatekeeper, and it's about not letting the people in that tarnish the integrity or the continuity of what you're trying to do. That's cancer.
Yeah.
That's what that is. That's cancer. And there's so much of it out there, and I think a lot of people have just sort of thrown up their hands about it. I just don't want to be involved in this at all, man, because it's just there's too much. Like it's it just drives me crazy. And if I think about it too much, I get upset and whatever else. So I'm just going to stick to my little thing here and I'm going to do my thing. And that stunts the growth process.
Yeah.
Because people haven't, like, again, done a good job with maybe calling somebody out or at least holding somebody accountable.
Yeah.
And a lot of that comes from if I'm calling somebody out with different intention of, I would really like this to be better.
Yeah.
It's more of like, look at me, or, you know, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of the look at me, and there's a lot of like, I need to validate my own feelings here.
Yeah.
Of not feeling worthy or whatever else.
Yeah. I can't see gatekeeping being bad as long as the delivery and the approach is done properly. If I'm fucking up and doing something to tarnish the image of my team or the companies I work for or anything like that, and somebody comes up to me and says, hey, dude, why are you doing this? It's coming across wrong. Like, if I say I post something stupid and somebody I respect, like Joe, sends me a message like, hey, bro, let's talk about this real quick, I'm going to fucking listen because it's somebody I trust. And there has to be that checks and balances. We have to be able to take criticism and evolve from it as human beings, as instructors, as coaches. It doesn't matter what your profession is. If you're don't have anybody in your circle that you trust that can call you on your shit, like, something's wrong with you. You're completely living on an island by yourself and you just love yourself that much, or you're ignorant to the fact that you can evolve and be better. There should always be something like that. We all make mistakes. Nobody is fucking perfect, but if you don't have that, like, I feel bad for you. Like, there's at least a dozen people that jump into my head that I hope they call me on my shit if I do something stupid. I'm gonna do something stupid at some point.
Well, yeah.
Like, it's not intentional.
We're human.
Like I said, all of my motivation is out of love. Like, I want to make enough money to make my wife not have to work, and I want to make cops the best possible shooters and the Second Amendment community better in every way possible. Like, I don't think of anything else I want more right now besides more dogs for the wife to be happy. But like, I don't get how people can take that as a bad thing. Like, we're trying to filter out the bad, like, especially law enforcement. Nobody hates a bad cop more than good cops. Like, when somebody fucks up, we all look bad. Let's all try to do better about that. Like, and everybody who usually sees the bad cop or works with the bad cop, they all have said, like, oh yeah, I saw that coming. Like, why didn't you do something about it?
Yeah, so that's one of the bigger themes that I'm taking away from this experience we're going through this weekend, and that is that if you're expecting it to come from the top down,
it ain't coming.
It's not coming.
No.
As the old saying goes, nobody's coming to save you.
No.
Nobody's going to come and change that thing. We've covered this ad nauseum, and it's likely if you're listening to this, you have too. Like, you recognize that, and you know the truth.
Yeah.
The truth is that, look, there may be some really good leaders out there that are really trying, but they're hamstrung by the machine.
Yeah.
By the system, and you know. They, as much as they want to try and fix it or make it better or whatever else, there's going to be limitations to that. And so the theme of this has really been like, let's teach and let's make sure we're giving, and part of this is the gatekeeping piece, but this has to come from the bottom up.
Yeah.
It has to come from if you're in the firearms industry, it has to come from the younger consumer.
Yeah.
Right. It has to come from the people in there, the civilians in there that are really, they expect and they demand better. They demand more. And I think you're seeing that like in product innovation and, and firearms and things like that. Like they're telling the industry and they're telling these companies with their money, what they want. But from the firearms instructor perspective and the learning perspective, I don't think that's caught up yet, right?
No, because there's not to go down the rabbit hole even deeper, but the whole thing where you're like, you don't know what you don't know. Sometimes that's a really long gap in between the two.
This is what I'm getting at. Yeah.
So from A to B on that might be months and months and months, or depending on where you are, like, I don't know about California, but Florida, there's a hotbed of instructors in South Florida. You can find several dozen probably firearms instructors. There's definitely some goofy shit going on. Mm-hmm. You might get the first time gun buyer who sees a flyer in a gun shop that somebody paid to put there, takes a class, thinks it's the greatest thing ever because he has nothing to compare it against, signs up for 2, 3, 4 classes, and then what's his future is going to be as a shooter? Does he stay there? And then he goes and trains with somebody legitimate.
And then realizes.
And he's going to be like, oh, shit.
This is the good girlfriend versus the fucking evil girlfriend. Yeah.
And then hopefully it's not too late, or don't put all your eggs in one basket when it comes to training. If you're a consumer, like try everybody. Like
yeah, and I think it's so. This is more of I guess what I'm saying with that gap that needs to be closed. If there's people at the top that are pushing and they're doing it in a healthy way, and can be doing it in a productive way, that's good. And so we're talking about all the people that are maybe saying things that aren't good, but can we talk about other people outside of maybe your little circle that are doing good things too, outside of the DMs?
Yeah.
So that's, you know, it's like I see the Monday morning quarterbacking, or I see the criticisms that are happening about one company or one instructor or whatever else.
Yeah.
But what I don't see a lot of is like, dude, like this instructor, I came across this. I'm giving this dude a shout out today because I think what he's doing is a really good fucking job, you know, right? And understand that and do that without expectation.
Yeah.
Just if you recognize somebody's doing a good job, this might sound corny, but I don't know a person in the world that doesn't like a pat on the back on occasion, man.
We all do.
We're fucking humans.
We're humans. Like, it's not out of ego. Just, it's nice to be appreciated every now and then.
But, you know, again, the ego is something that can keep you alive. It can get you out of trouble. It can help you make a better decision sometimes. It can also do the opposite of all of those things. But stroking it on occasion or stroking somebody else's, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
As long as it's done with good intention.
Yeah.
And I think the intention just being, dude, I just want to let you know, I don't know if anybody's done this yet or in a long time, but I thought you did a really good job of that. Great job.
With showing appreciation.
With no expectation, you know, between. We don't see a lot of that out there.
No.
I mean, that might be a really novel idea. I don't know. But to have
there's
other
a handful.
people prop people up.
There's a handful. Like, I know
they should be propped up.
Like Joe does it every now and then. Chris Palmer does it. It doesn't happen all that often. I know Duffy's done it a couple times. Like, it's rare because it's I don't know if it's such a cutthroat industry. Nobody wants to support each other, but that's also why like our circle is like a bunch of good dudes. We all want to. There's enough food at the table for all of us to eat.
Yeah.
Like, we should not be stabbing each other in the back and fucking each other over to just get that dollar.
Or
like,
even spending the time there is maddening to me. Like that people have the time to do this rather than like if you took just cut that time in half that you spent blasting this dude and look for something out there to provide to the community. Like, hey, this is a really good idea, or this is really cool, or congrats to this guy, or give this guy a shout out. Now, I will tell you, I'm seeing a little bit more of that. You just dropped like Chris is an example. Like unsolicited, Chris has reached out and go, hey man, great stuff. And I do the same for him. You know, like this is great. And it happens in private. And sometimes it happens publicly, like reposting somebody's stuff going, this was a really great idea. Listen to this. Not the fucking shirtless, you know, mag dump slow-mo video, you know, or whatever, that kind of stuff. Like that just perpetuates the problem. So,
but that marketing works on a new shooter.
Fucking
maybe
works,
a new student like may see that as
I get it.
Like, oh, he must be a badass. I need to do that. Like, I hope it's not that, like, because like we see through that bullshit. But I don't know. Maybe a young 22-year-old kid who just bought his first pistol doesn't know the difference.
Yeah. He doesn't. Not yet. That's that gap we're talking about. So maybe if there was a little bit, maybe I guess a better balance of this stuff. And again, I don't mean you're doing this because he's sponsored by your favorite gun company, and so you're reposting his shit, or you know that you have something to gain by this, or because he sent you some gear or a T-shirt or whatever else. I mean, just legitimately looking for the good things. This is a mindset thing, you know, versus the bullshit. So again, that's like gatekeeping, like what you're putting out there, like versus, and again, making a conscious decision to provide something of value rather than, and the value doesn't always have to be, well, we need to call out this because this is bad. Like there's value in this, but there's also value on the other side. I think the newer shooter wants to know, okay, this is bad. This is bad. This guy's fucking, like, this dude just got torched, you know, by the whole community here. So I know not to do that. But what am I supposed to do? Like, where am I supposed to go? Who should I be listening to? What is the counter to this? That's a conversation I see starting to kind of trickle in. But it's like it's handled through a meme, right? Or it's handled through something else. And it's like, if I'm a new guy, like, I don't want to embarrass myself. So I'm starting to learn like what all the bad things are, but I'm not really quite sure what all the good things are. I think it's getting boiled down.
Yeah, the social anxiety of being a new student, taking a class all by yourself, like hopefully you have a shooting buddy. That makes it a whole lot easier. But going to a class with a bunch of strangers to learn something that you're a novice in, like
that's intimidating as hell.
It's intimidating. Good on you for doing it. Like that, like being strong enough to do that and overcome that anxiety and that social pressure, like fucking good on you. But at some point you evolve past like when you get those first day of school jitters gone. Yeah. Okay, now you're not a new guy anymore. All right. Now you're learning, you're gonna evolve. It's on you to seek out the best information. You've got to keep seeking it out. Everybody at some point, I think I said it in the last podcast, needs to be able to look back and be like, wow, I wish I knew then what I know now. If you can't say that, you're not fucking trying.
No, I agree with you 100%. And that's a really good point. So there's an accountability to and a responsibility to the consumer or the student to always want to be pushing themselves and not just settling for the comfortable thing.
Yeah.
What do I mean by that? I mean, I could say, well, don't just go to your favorite instructor all the time. Well, that might be part of it, but maybe, look, you're in a very small area, from a region perspective.
If you live in the middle of nowhere and all you've got is
you got 3 instructors and 2 are shit and one, is getting recommendations and and worse than that, maybe you're having to take the lesser of 2 evils in some cases. I get it, and that's real. Yeah. I understand that. Like when we talked about to people about their workouts and whatever, and what they have access to or what they don't have access to, we have to make adjustments. We have to do that. But maybe, if that's the case, like turn them on to content that they could be watching to learn, or because there's no shortage of that.
Look at Matt and Ben; like they have dry fire videos overflowing on their social media pages. Like dozens of instructors are posting that kind of stuff. Like, and there's a lot of really good shooters. Dozens of GM shooters are posting their dry fire drills. Doesn't cost you $1. They're giving all that shit out for free. Like how amazing of a world we live in. It's on you to do it. You can make excuses like, I'm not going to buy my 15th new gun. Maybe I save some of that money for travel, ammo, and I will go to wherever some instructor I'm really dying to train with is. Like, the traveling is not, no one's immune to it. Like, I feel so blessed that sometimes we host classes and guys are traveling crazy distances. Like, we had, guys come from Canada. We've had guys come from Florida California all the way to the East Coast. Like, we can come to you too. Like, they're like, oh no, we were dying to come train with you. Like, that's so humbling, and God, we appreciate that so much. But those are the guys that said, hey, fuck it, I'm not going to go buy another $2,000 gun. I'll spend $1,000 on airfare, a hotel, travel, the class, and I'm going to go get it from the source that I deemed it important enough to do, instead of not committing to that. Like, everybody that's new to this community gets tied into the new shiny toy.
Yeah.
At some point, and some people bite that bait, and some people don't. And eventually, most of them see the light and realize, all right, my safe is overflowing. I need more training. I need more trigger time. Then I need new toys. But hopefully they eventually see that sooner than later, and they're not completely indebted with an overflowing safe of shit they don't shoot.
Yeah, again, I think that's another really important point in terms of taking responsibility as a learner, not resting on your laurels, or again, reaching for the new product or the new gear. Mm-hmm. Get good with what you got and make the investment. So that goes back to the making the investment part. And I get where there's anxiety and there's hesitation with people wanting to make an investment and making a mistake. I talked about this with Joe in previous podcasts, and that being it's okay to make a mistake. You don't want to make too many of them. More importantly, what I mean by that is too many of them from uninformed positions that are getting you into trouble.
I have storage bins full of mistakes that my wife wants me to fucking throw away.
So
I bought 1 million pieces of gear that I thought would fill a void that I had, and then being complete shit.
Yeah, so not wanting to make a mistake, I get that, but also making the mistake is important, as so long as you're examining what you did and what you learned from it, or so forth. So, I think taking the responsibility is also making the commitment to making those mistakes. Mm-hmm. And not being blinded by the new shiny thing or the verbal diarrhea that comes out of some instructor's mouth or whatever. Yeah. But I also understand that it can be really tough to decipher what's verbal diarrhea and what's just a bright, shiny object versus what's a legit piece of equipment that could really help me from a performance perspective or help me from a, for wherever, from an managing efficiency perspective. I just have to say, I don't think there's a lot of that out there. I mean, if you're not on the Red Dot train, there's going to be dudes. Again, it's the Ironsides podcast. We did that for a reason.
Yeah.
But if you're not on that, I could legitimately say, when you get on the Red Dot train, you might. The future has arrived. It's here. You'll see.
It's not going. It's not staying, or it's not leaving, and it's here to stay.
But all the other little things, that are out there, like you could leave that stuff in the shopping cart, and just get out there with your pistol or whatever, your carbine or whatever, and your Red Dot, and that's where the learning and the growth is gonna come.
The basics, the fundamentals. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Like you can always sell it and upgrade later on. Like if you're just dipping your toe into the water and be like, okay, you don't have to go full retard and spend like $5,000 on a complete crazy AR setup or anything like that. Or I'm a brand new shooter and I already want to get into night vision and stuff like that. If your budget's open for it, like knock yourself out. But you'd be better off buying like a couple thousand rounds of ammo and going to some classes and then dry firing and getting a fundamental base, and you'll be surprised how far that will take you. Because night vision's amazing. You're literally able to buy a superpower. But on the civilian side, like, how much are you doing with that besides hunting pigs in Texas? Like, or wherever you live, like, it's a fun experience.
There's a very specific use case for this.
I'm always going to tell you, like, well, when's the last time you took a pistol class? Oh, it's been 5 years? Oh, but you just bought... like panos, okay, good for you. Like maybe your priorities are a little jacked up, or I need to buy the newest, greatest, whatever. Like when's the last time you took a class?
So I think this is the recurring theme, and that is that it really does boil down to the fundamentals, right? And it comes back to making good decisions about making sure you're staying on those fundamentals, and because it all comes back to that. Always. But if you don't have a good base of those, then you don't have anything to come back to.
Correct.
And you're going to have to invest in order to get those. And it's an investment of time. Well, there's a commitment to an investment of time, energy, and in some cases, finance.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people are looking at like the more finance, I can overcompensate with the finance to overcome those other two.
You can't buy skill.
Which we talked about, like you cannot buy your fitness, you cannot buy your firearm skills, your shooting skills, you can't buy them. So for people out there that are looking for, if we just kind of wrapping this up, I think in giving people maybe some steps in the process to, okay, I get it. I'm new. It's specifically for the new person. So I'm a new person. I'm trying to find that right information. There are people out there that are willing to give you that right information. And don't be so anxious to jump on board with a specific instructor. If you're seeing something out there and you're seeing a class, my best advice would be reach out to somebody else and ask them about that instructor.
Yeah.
I get that actually all the time. Like, hey, have you ever trained with this guy, or what do you know about this? I don't know, but I know somebody that does. I haven't trained with him, but or her or whatever. Like, I don't know who this person. I have heard this, but let me reach out and I'll give you whatever the third-party feedback is, or connect you with them.
Yeah, I'll give you a hint that I just thought of. If it's an instructor who's got a social media page, at some point he's probably posted on his feed a picture, either a class photo of wrapping up a class, or a picture of him or her on the range, and it say, "Hey, training in Texas this weekend." In the caption, go through the comments or go see through who's tagged in that class photo. Send them a DM. Oh, hey, you took this class with instructor XYZ? How'd you like it? I guarantee you that person will probably be happy to respond because they were in your shoes at one point and they bit the bullet, took the risk to go train with this person if it was the first time or not. And because that is one thing that's really cool about this community. Yes, there's a lot of fucking weird shit, but majority of it is good dudes who want to see other people thrive and build it up and make it better and be the poster child for why we need guns and why we want to defend ourselves. Like, we all want each other to do better. Most of us, at least.
That's a really good point, man, because, I think if you're going through somebody's, an instructor's page, this is like in any business, like, I think people really question testimonials now that seems, not in that way, because that was unsolicited.
Yeah.
But like, if I see, like, if I'm an instructor and I'm posting like testimonials, and my clients are posting testimonials on my page, I get it. It's like going to Yelp. Like, where did this come from?
Yeah.
Like, you get all these 5-star reviews is like, you paid them to do that, or these are not real people, or whatever.
If they don't feel organic and genuine, people can see through that.
I understand that there could be truth in that, or there could be a lot of untruth in that. Like, that's why I hate fucking Yelp, because anybody can get on there and say whatever the fuck they want, whether they were there or not.
Yeah.
But my point is like, I get where people could look at this and go, yeah, but that sounds a little. These guys are probably buddies or friends or whatever. That's a really great point.
You're cold calling people, basically.
And, so the flip side of that, I think, is for people, for instructors to ask for referrals.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And to tell their friends, but not in a way where it seems solicited.
Oh, we get that question all the time. At least I know I do in my DMs. Like, hey, I've never trained with this person. What do you know about them? Like, oh, I've trained with them. They're good dudes. Like, cool. Like, at the end of class, we ask people, like, hey, who do you have questions about? Like, we'll be open to tell you. Like, we are not shy about that shit in class. Like, if you're paying to come see us, we'll give you our opinion on CQB and who we trust as instructors, because we train. I take like a dozen classes a year. Like, I'm not shy about it. I haven't had a bad experience in a really long time, so good. But this information, like, we want to give it out. Like, it's free. We're not charging people for it.
I think the other thing, there's another theme here that I find, and that is with the really great instructors that I know and I've been privileged to sit down and chat with, is that they take other people's classes.
Yeah.
So, like, I know, and we talked about John Dufresne a few times now, but I know, like, he jumps into other people's classes all the time. Yeah. Because he wants to see what's up, right? And like, he wants to see what's up. Maybe he learns something.
He loves to be a student. And if you're our new shooter, I'll pimp his page right now. Go to his YouTube. He has a video about how to be a student, and a whole, several videos about how he brings notebooks, how he loads out his, range stuff, how he prepares, ready to go for day one of a class. Like, all that stuff is super valuable if you're new to this. Take advantage of it. It's all free.
And it's not going to be the one that has 10 billion fucking views on it, because it's not the fucking...
It's not sexy.
It's not the slow-mo mag dump with, shirtless mag dump type of thing. So you understand that. Again, another really good point. Like, you just did what we're talking about, which is go see this guy's page, because he gives all this information. Yeah. So if you're an instructor, this is the next thing. So that's the consumer side, or the student side. If you're the instructor side of this and you're like, you're trying to get better, what better way to get better than to go to other people's classes? Mm-hmm. And like, I've sat here with, we just mentioned you and John and whoever that go to other people's classes. I mean, when I saw you in Vegas, you were just coming from, who were you coming from? You were coming from somebody's class.
Prank and Stover's class.
Yeah, so you're coming from those. Yeah. You went to take classes from those. You mentioned Rakaza.
Yeah. And work didn't pay for $1 of it.
Right. So you made the investment, right?
Because I like shooting with good people. Like, I want to learn just like anybody else.
Your ego should not be so fragile that you cannot go to other classes. No. And as an instructor, when you get that other instructor in your class, you should feel honored that they're there.
Yes. Give me feedback. How can I be better? Because instructor development is huge. Nobody is good at this shit right off the bat as instructing. Like, you may have the skills, but how do I communicate it to you is a whole nother game. And everybody has their own, methodologies. Everybody has their own, little sales pitch, or however you want to call it. How do I get the information from in here into you to do what I'm trying to get you to do in the proper context, how to apply it? That is a skill in itself. And nobody is good at that shit right out of the gate. It takes practice, and that's where peer reviewing and not so much gatekeeping, but if I have a class, I want somebody like John Dufresne there. I want Joe Dawson to take my class and give me honest feedback and be like, hey, that didn't make sense. You didn't explain it very well enough, or that sucked, or whatever. That was good. Please be honest, because then I can grow and evolve. And if you're too proud for that, then I don't have any faith in your curriculum or your level of instruction. Sorry. You're part of the problem.
The consequence of that is you're not going to be in the circle.
No.
Yeah. So, and again, that's not like you shot this at this match and we're scoring you or we're grading you that way.
I fucked up every match I've shot so far.
Yeah, so it's about making sure you're doing the right thing for the sake of doing the right thing, and that is to get better and share the knowledge so that other people get better. So if you're that instructor who's got that other instructor in your class, like I talked to other instructors before. I was talking to Kyle before the other day, and he's like, some fucking big name dudes showed up to my class, and they're like, and he's like, what, you signed up for my class? What are you doing here, man? Like, he's very humble about it. He's like, and people are very honest with him about why they're there, and they're there to learn. And he does the same thing. It's like, how'd I do?
Yeah.
and that's without expectation.
Yeah,
so,
he doesn't want a pat on the back. He wants an honest review.
That's it.
That's the difference.
The good ones do. So if you're with an instructor who, as a student or whatnot, or you're another instructor around another instructor who appears to be, beyond reproach and his ego is that fragile, or he's just that sensitive, or he's that married to whatever the thing is all the time, that's probably a red flag, and that's probably something that's going to be on the fringes anyway. So I mean, the goal for today for me, man, was to sit down and kind of talk about these cultural things, but I talk a lot of culture in these talks, but also talk about the specifics about what can we do, like actionably, to get better. So we talked about the student and how they can maybe ask some questions, vet some people, reach out to things, red flags if they are reaching out to people and are not getting positive responses or any response at all. That's a red flag. People are busy, but I got to tell you, like when I reached out to people before Iron Sights was where Iron Sights is, now people are fucking responding to me. The ones that don't, I don't even remember those messages and I don't remember who those people are.
It may take a day or two. Like if you, for me, for example, you send me a DM after like 9 or 10 p.m. and I don't get a response till the next day, like, sorry, dude, I was sleeping.
Yes.
But I'll get back to it. If I don't know the answer, we'll find out someone who does. Like, look at Joe. Like, Joe answers freaking thousands of questions a week, it seems like, nonstop. And he'll answer the same question over and over and over, because it's probably from a different person who didn't see the last round of questions. Like, you can't like devalue that. Yeah,
that goes. There's a lot of guys that are doing that right now. But yeah, same thing. Like, we've been here wrapped up this whole weekend. It's been bell to bell. I have a high level of anxiety because my fucking inbox on my Instagram is full of messages that are unread. Yeah. I'm like, I gotta clear those, but we're gonna finish this up. It's gonna be like, we gotta get up early the next day. So they're gonna get pushed out. The bottom line is like, I will get back. It can take me a long time sometimes. Longer than I'd like it to be, but I'll get back. But instructors will do this for you, so reach out to them. If you're that instructor, if you're an instructor, the same rules apply. Yeah. Reach out to other people, find out what they're doing. Don't confirm your suspicions, right? Yeah. Confirm your reservation or whatever it is by reaching out, trying to have these other conversations, and don't be afraid to reach out to people that you think are at this level, because that's what I was trying to share. Like this, they're untouchable. They'll never respond to me.
They're just dudes.
They're just fucking dudes.
They're just dudes, and most of them are good dudes.
If you listen to the show, then you know that, because they just end up sitting down and being good dudes. And they don't think that they're so far above you that you're don't feel dumb by reaching out. Don't send a dumb question. Yeah. A dumb question is one that's not well developed. Yeah. It doesn't give any context. And
do your homework first, because sometimes that question is answered somewhere in like the Q&A or something. Like, don't half-ass it. Like, I know you want the quick answer, but do a little bit of homework. Like,
nothing bothers me more than when somebody's like, look, that's literally on the website. Yeah. Or that's literally like at the top of the page.
Yeah, the frequently asked questions, like the first one.
Yeah,
like,
just fucking hit that.
You're not even trying.
Do a little work. Yeah.
So I'll give you a freebie every now and then, but come on, try. Just a little bit.
And so on the bigger pictures, we were talking about Ape and what you're doing and how you guys are starting to get out there. I think that's exciting. I think that to confirm this, I mean, one of the first things I saw was, like, when I saw you start talking about this, I was like, dude, does this mean you're not with the Condition 1 guys anymore?
Dave and all them are stuck with me forever.
Yeah, so confirming, still with you can still find Chris in Condition 1 with the dudes. All things are go down there, but then moving into the thought process and the moving forward with the nonprofit to help people at a different level. There are a lot of people out there doing that with like mental and emotional health for officers and people at the service.
That is on the table for in the future. We're not sure how to approach it yet, but that is definitely something we want to consider, because that is an issue for law enforcement for sure. Mental health issues, like, that's a whole nother podcast within itself.
For sure.
We can definitely talk deep about that, but that's somewhere where we hope to take it in the future. We're thinking smaller, easier problems now, and then the bigger, maybe like seminars or workshops for mental health down the road that we can sponsor. Whether we bring Catherine down to do the same thing, or like Rebecca, we can host and give them more of a voice and a platform to do so.
Yeah, I think this is so. I think this may be inspiring people. You know, I hope it inspires people, or it gives people like hope that people are out there doing bigger and better things. But it also, what I hope it does is it gets people to reach out and go, dude, because there's strength in numbers when it comes to this stuff. And so again, whether you're an instructor or whether you can provide some type of service to the community that you're trying to provide service to, you know, from the law enforcement side of things, like there could be a lot of things. Again, gear, instruction, therapy, all of these things. Like there's strength in numbers, and the intention is coming from a good place, right? It's because you guys love the professional, love the people doing it, and you're just trying to help. So again, I think this is like it kind of kicks off a whole different sort of tone and conversation for the future for us to be talking about, because I hear these themes as they're coming up when I'm having these conversations online and offline. And this one really triggered something with me with regard to the I mean, we keep talking about this problem or the problems, and there's not a lot of talking about the solution. No. And it is a big problem.
It is.
It's a big, but it's not insurmountable.
No, nothing's impossible.
And I haven't completely lost my faith in humans yet to solve problems. I am challenged fucking daily, Chris.
I have my good days and bad.
I'm challenged daily, but I do have faith that there are people or that people by nature want to do well. Yeah. They just sometimes people just need to fucking grab them by the shoulders or by the shirt and just shake the shit out of them. Yeah. Like I've heard it referred to as shaking your state. Just like, hey, listen up. Like stop with this. Let's move on. Let's get on to the next thing. And hopefully this is maybe shake some people up a little bit, and I hope they can think about it.
My goal this year is to definitely be more motivational with social media and be as more helpful as I can possibly be. Whether that's be through like, here's a new video or here's a tip of information, and through this program, like I hope people know that our hearts are in this so deep that we want to help as many of you as possible. And it does not matter, like, it doesn't matter what your admin says. If they don't want to pay for it, please call us. We will find a way to get you the money, because we're going to be hosting, again, fundraisers. We're going to be reaching out to donors. We'll be working with other companies and other foundations as well. There's a lot of stuff in the works to where we can host like big scale events for training and for the benefit of officers in this country.
Which is the place or the type of events that should be happening around that to create attention and buzz and things like that, instead of every day you're on the range trying to make that a media buzz and a fundraiser for yourself. Think a little bit bigger than that. It's exciting shit, man. And I'll just add this. I've known you long enough now to know and associated myself around the people that you're around enough now to know that it's no joke, the roots that exist here. I mean, they go deep in terms of the companies. And I've had very personal conversations with people behind these companies to know that they're coming from the same places. So it's been confirmed for me, like going back, good dudes usually hang out with other good dudes, and they want to help other good dudes that may not have the advantages that they have. So I appreciate you coming down, dude. I know it's late, and we got another long day tomorrow.
Yeah, we do.
But and then we got to get on airplanes and go back home and stuff. But thanks for your time, brother. Thanks for your energy.
I really appreciate you. I always enjoy talking with you, man.
Yeah, we'll catch you tomorrow.
Yes, sir.